Okay, it is the eve of Yom Yerushalayim, Chavches Iyar. I'm here, this is Rabbi Blinder, and I'm here with my niece, Sadie Blinder, and my father, Mr. Naftali Blinder, and we are going to interview, Sadie's going to interview Mr. Blinder to hear about his experiences going to and being before, during, and after the Six-Day War in Eretz Yisrael. So I pass it on to Sadie Blinder.
Hi.
Hi, Sadie. Okay, the first question. Leading up to the Six-Day War in the Middle East, the tension was palatable. What was it like in the United States?
Well, in the United States, it was also very palatable. We felt it. All the Jewish people felt it, especially near the yeshivas. All the yeshivas were afraid. It was a time that all the Arab armies were surrounding Israel again. The Egyptians were in Gaza, and the Syrians were up north, right overlooking. They were in the Golan, and Jordans were on the side and the Jordanians. They were already on the east, what we call the West Bank. We're not in Samaria. What we call what's the area of the West Bank? Right now, we call the West Bank, and not on the other side of the Jordan, but Mamish on the East Yerushalayim. They were there in that whole area, and they were all against Israel. We felt it very, very much so. Nasser was screaming he's going to bring Israel down, and we were scared. We were all scared, and we didn't know what was going to happen. It was a really terrible moment, and we felt it very strongly. We really felt it.
Where were you at the time?
I happened to have been finishing my first year or my third year in pharmacy school, and I was at the yeshiva. I lived near YU, around the corner from YU, and when the call came out for volunteers, I happened to have been having dinner at YU, and there was a representative of the Sachanut there telling everyone that all the men have been called up into the army. They're feeling the war is going to start, it's imminent, and they need help. All the produce that's being, it was a harvest time. It was the end of May and beginning of June, and you had a lot of fruit and vegetables, and everything was coming to be harvested, and it was all going to go. It would be wasted unless someone got there to harvest. So that's what they called us. Who wants to volunteer? We weren't volunteering to go into the army. We weren't going into fight. We never held a gun. That's the last people they wanted. But we were going to help out. So the minute I heard that, they needed help. So that's where I have to be.
What made you go to Israel when the war was inevitable?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
What made you go to Israel when the war was inevitable?
Because I felt if Israel is going to have trouble, if there's going to be problems there, God forbid if it should go down, it's not going to go down without me there. I had to be there. I had to be part of it, to help save, to do something, to make sure that I was with the Jewish people there. That's how I felt.
Wow. You felt that if it's going to go down, you want to be there with them.
Yeah.
You weren't thinking that if they'd be victorious, you want to be there to celebrate. But if you're going down, you're going down with them.
God forbid, we were hoping, of course, for victory. We didn't know what was going to happen, but I knew there was going to be a fight.
Wow.
So we had to be there to help something or other get there, do it.
What was the plane ride home like?
The plane ride
Home.
there to Israel.
Yeah, to Israel, yeah.
Well, the plane from the United States to Israel was empty. There were only about 12 or 15 volunteers that were.
That's all I got from that whole.
Well, don't forget that people were running. We tried. Many people wanted to volunteer, and there was a whole system before you left. You had to go get a passport. So we stood in line to get a passport right away. Then you had to go to the doctor to get examined to make sure you were well and healthy. And I was able to do it right away and get early to do it. So I was able to get out early. Now I left on Wednesday night. I landed in Israel on Thursday. The war started on Monday. So after that, nobody can get in. It was Erev Shabbos and Shabbos. And that was, nobody else. After that, I don't think from America, I don't think there were more than maybe two groups that left, maybe 30, tops 40 of us that were able to get out, to make all the arrangements and to get out. So the plane going to Israel was empty.
15, 20 people.
That's it.
Plane.
That's all that was on the plane.
Wow.
Just us volunteers. That was it.
What were you feeling?
You know, there was excitement. I had never been on a plane. This was the first time I ever went on a plane. So there was excitement of getting to Eretz Yisrael, for sure. But what was going to be, where we were going to go, you know, it was all up in the air. We had no clue.
Were you greeted by anyone when you got
When we got off the plane, we were greeted with the excitement. They couldn't believe that volunteers were coming from the United States, because the airport was packed. The plane that we flew on that was empty, it was a plane that was boarded by 400 or 500 people in the airport. Everyone was leaving. You know, people were leaving. The kids were, the guys in yeshivas, they would call home. Can I stay? No, I want you home. It's understandable. The war is coming. I didn't give them my parents that option. I called and said, I'm going to Israel. And that was it. At the airport, there was the news, they had television, and they had reporters, and we were interviewed, you know, and there was an excitement at the airport. And we were greeted by the Sachnut. They greeted us at the airport, and they sent us to different places where we were going to stay. Our group mostly went to Masot Yitzchak. That's a Moshav Shetufi right near Ashkelon, which is only 10 kilometers to Gaza, the border. Can you imagine, we're very near the border. They sent us, not to fight, but very near the border. And the other group went to Lavi, I believe. They sent us to we all went to religious farm areas to work.
Please, can you describe what a Moshav Shetufi looks
A
like?
Moshav Shetufi is it's a combination of a Moshav and a kibbutz. So you live separately like a Moshav. Everyone has their own houses, and but you work the land is shituf. That's communal. The working of the land is all you worked. We all work together. So we landed. We got there Thursday. We got there Thursday to the Moshav, and we were out early in the morning. Friday morning, we were out there already. Pruning and collecting vegetables and doing everything else. We were ready. We were working.
Did you have any experience in agriculture before this?
Before this, no. But they put us. We learned to inoculate chickens, and to bring the cows in, and to work the land.
You learned on the job. Who was there? Who was on the Moshav?
The women and children. There were some older men that were not in the army that were there. We had some hired help, older men, hired people that came in from Jewish men that came in from Ashkelon that lived there. They were sort of over, you know, they were our managers, and so that's what we did. We worked in Chamamot, worked in the hot houses. We were really very busy the entire time. And then the war started on Monday, and we happened to have been very nearby an airfield. So we saw the planes taking right off. So Monday morning, before it was announced, we knew the war started. We didn't know where they were going, but we saw the planes taking off. So we knew it started.
What were you doing during the war?
It's a good question. The first day, they had us digging trenches, called trenches, all around. We tried to dig trenches. We tried. The ground was so hard. They give us a pickaxe. And these are American guys that have never had a shovel in their hand. But the trenches was really, what we found out later on, was they were really 6 feet deep. That God forbid they were, you know, they didn't know what was coming. So they were preparing grave sites. But we didn't know. So it's good we didn't know, but that's what they were preparing. All over Israel, Yerushalayim, they were digging all over.
Were there any bombings near you?
We were near Gaza, like I told you. We weren't far from Gaza. So we heard bombing. Actually, one night during the war, there was a sniper that they caught on our property, and there was some gunfire. I happened to be the good sleeper, so I slept through it. So they told me in the morning that there was a sniper that they subdued, meaning they got rid of him. But but otherwise, we heard the noise, we heard the bombing, we saw the planes, but we were not. We were busy all during the war. What we were doing basically is we were working in the hot houses, picking tomatoes and cucumbers. We were working in the field, picking up selak sukar, which is that's how they make sugar from these gigantic sugar beets, and sending them. We harvested them. They would take them, drive them to the sugar beet factory. We picked melons, Israeli melons, these delicious Israeli melons, which we would ship at night, not to lose anything. What they would do is all the produce that was good, all the first class produce was sent at night we sent it by truck to Lud airport, and Lud would fly out at night all the fresh vegetables that all the kibbutzim had picked, and they flew them into Europe. So they didn't lose. Thank God we didn't lose any money. We didn't lose anything on produce. Everything was taken care of. So we worked on the fields. We worked in the refet. That's the cow. The milk bring the cows in to get milked, and the chickens we would walk into the chickens, take care of the chickens, and it was really we really enjoyed it.
Do you remember where you were when you heard that the war was over?
Was that when the war was over? I don't remember clearly. I remember where I was when Yerushalayim was free. When Yerushalayim was biadiנו.
Yeah.
When Yerushalayim was in our hands, we were out in the fields, and someone had a little portable radio, and all of a sudden he said, "Yerushalayim, Yerushalayim biadiנו." We dropped everything, whatever we were doing, and we ran to the shul. There was a big, beautiful shul, and outside the shul was boarded up, so the windows and everything, the lights, everything was off. The windows were all boarded up because we didn't, there could be a bomb go off. We didn't want the windows to break. But there was a big plaza outside the shul. So we started dancing and singing, and it was like unreal. Yerushalayim, biyadeinu, biyadeinu. We couldn't believe it after 2,000 years. So I think we even said Hallel.
Were there any big celebrations that you went to after that?
After that, we stayed on our moshav. Everyone else stayed. You weren't allowed to go into the cities yet, or to Yerushalayim, but we went to Yerushalayim when they opened up Yerushalayim. The first day it was opened, we went to Yerushalayim. That was on Shavuos. First day of the first only one day. Shavuos, everyone came up to Yerushalayim. All the Mindavim from all over the country, wherever they were.
Where'd you stay?
I stayed in Yeshiva of Cook. They had a dorm, and they were nice to us. They were very nice to us. They put all the Americans up in the dorm, and we stayed there. We davened there at night, and then in the middle of the night, everyone started going to the Kotel. Walked to the Kotel because that was open that night. But
was that your first time at the Kotel?
Sure, that was the first time at the Kotel. It was never available. The Kotel.
Yeah.
Kotel was never available before then, and to get there that's a story. To get to the Kotel, then you had to go through Ir David, which was totally Arab. Ir David was totally Arab, and as you walked through, they had gates with chayalim at each gate to keep it should be a horde of people moving in at one time into the old city. So you had gate every 150, 200 feet. There was a gate, and they'd open the gate. You'd run to the next gate, and at the gate there was chayalim. We'd start dancing and singing with the chayalim there. This was unbelievable. At every gate you ran to the next gate. Every gate to the next gate until we walked in. But it was already getting daylight. And so you would see over the old city, Adonai Kavod, you saw a cloud hanging over the old city. And we're looking at this, we're saying, what is this cloud? It was the Rebbeinu Shalom himself came and settled down. They're coming for Shavuos. We couldn't believe it. No, we couldn't understand what is this cloud. So everyone entered then Shar Ashba. That was the way in. And here's a picture, a little bit. You can begin to understand. If you can see this picture, it looked like Berlin after World War II. As you entered into the old city, as you entered into Shar Ashba, all the houses were torn down, so they were all concrete, dirt and bricks, high up. Must have been much higher than people walking there, maybe 20 feet high. And on top of this whole pile of dirt all around us, we had a path that was safely made. You know, they had to check the path was okay, no bombs or anything. The people walked through the path, and you were surrounded by this high mountain of dirt, concrete and bricks, all the schmutz that was torn down, and flags flying high. It was an unbelievable scene. Unbelievable. I can still remember to today. And that's where the cloud came from. Because as everyone was walking, the dirt, all the concrete, just went up in the sky. All the dust made a cloud. So then we got, they opened up the Kotel a little bit. You know, nothing like it is today. But it was opened up, like just the front part of the plaza was there, and it was minyanim, and it was packed. It was packed. People davening, and so I started. We davened. We had our minyan, and I duchened, and then all of a sudden I finished duchening. The next 2 feet over, they would call again, Kohanim. So I quickly ran over there. I must have duchened that morning 20 times in different minyanim. That was something. Then when they wanted to leave, everyone had a certain amount of time there, and then you went back out through the shuk. You walked up the steps back that way, out through the shuk, and so you came out a Shar Yafo. That's how everyone went in Shar Ashba and then out that way, and it was very controlled. Baruch Hashem, it was very controlled.
Can you compare this experience to anything else that you've experienced in your life?
Oh boy, nothing that exciting. Nothing. When the war was finished, and I stayed in Israel the whole summer, and Jeffrey Wald, who took these pictures, and myself, we wanted to write a letter of thank you to Nasser for even starting up with us. That we were able to get there and have this experience. This was an experience of a lifetime. To be there, to be in Eretz Yisrael when all these nisim and niflos were taking place in front of our eyes. The young men, as they came back from the army or wherever they were stationed, they would tell us of different miracles that happened right in front of their eyes. You know, they would see a bomb fall and it wouldn't go off, or it would hit a house and bounce off of it, or crazy things that you could never think of. I had friends that lived outside of Yerushalayim, the suburb, right there below Mivasaret. I don't remember the name of the town. You know, it's right below Mivasaret. As you're leaving Yerushalayim, it was the only suburb at that time. They had a house, and right opposite them, east of them, was Jordan, and they were shooting off bombs constantly into this place, because up on the top was an old age home, and they were aiming to just destroy it. Not one bomb, not one, from all the things that hit there, not one touched a house, not one caused any damage. It was like unbelievable. This is the miracles that was there, that we said, open miracles before our eyes. We couldn't believe it. So anything, I'd never had an experience like this in my life. This was a schus that was granted, and I took advantage.
Once in a lifetime. Was it hard to come back to the United States after?
Well, the government was very nice to us, the Sachnut. Those who came before the war, you know, after the war, they asked anyone who wanted to come could come, and hundreds and thousands of volunteers, all of a sudden everyone was coming. But the ones that came before the war, the Sachnut offered us 3 things, so that we should stay in Israel. Maybe the whole thing was a gimmick to get us there, I don't know, but I don't think so. Even if it was, I'm happy that I did it. They offered us we could stay, if we stayed in Israel, we could go to the army half-time. Instead of those days, it was 36 months, you could do it in 18. They gave us an option to buy an apartment in Beit Vagan, half price. Can you imagine? I had no money. I had nothing then. And the third was to go to any school at half price in Israel, any university. Well, we were all university people, but they had no school of pharmacy. My mazel. So I told them, I'm sorry, I can't take the offer. I really have to go back.
Did anyone from your chevra stay?
From our chevra, none stayed then, but one ended up marrying a girl from there, and he lives there now. And I met a number of, I think 2 or 3. No, then there was a girl, a young lady, also married a fellow from there, and from our group. And she actually got married during that summer, and she lives there. And another gentleman and 1 or 2 others made aliyah. The fellow who took these pictures, Jeffrey, made aliyah. Another made aliyah. And when I came back, we started, after I was able to, the schus of my being there is the schus that I met Savta. I met Savta. And so a year after we got married, then we started a garin in the United States. And this garin that we started settled. They opened up Efrat. They started Efrat. It took a while to become popular. Now you can't even get into Efrat anymore. So slowly, everyone except me made it back. So it was a very special time. Do you have any other questions?
I think that's it.
That's it. Any closing remarks?
Closing remarks. It was an unbelievable time in history, and we should be zocher that we have Eretz Yisrael. We are zocher that we have Eretz Yisrael, and we should keep it strong. And soon, Mitzvah Shem, the Geula will come. We'll all go, be able to settle there.
Thank
That's
you.
it.
Thank you.
Sadie.
My pleasure.
Thank